Right. Parashat Chayei Sarah. This is this week's Torah portion. Avner, can you do me a favor? Just close this door. Even though this Parashat Chayei Sarah, deals with the death of Sarah Imenu, it's still called Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. And then it talks about Chaim, life, and not death. And to be honest with you, that is, I think, one of the biggest secrets that this parasha, this portion, is trying to tell us. And it's trying to tell us how should we live, and how could we turn the power of death into life. Well, one way to go is to just throw everything behind, get yourself a nice 4x4 rig, and then that's one way to do it, right, Zalman?
That's right.
And that's right. However, believe it or not, even to do that, you need to know how to do in the parasha. So in this parasha, Avraham Avinu, of course, buys the Ma'arat Machpelah in Hebron. For guys of you who didn't know, Hebron belongs to the Jews, not to some Arabs. They came from who knows where. They were not even local and settled down in the place. But that's beyond the scope of this discussion. And of course, he buries there his wife Sarah. Chayei Sarah, the parasha, deals really with what we call Erov Yamav Shel Avraham Avinu, the twilight of Avraham Avinu's life. Talks about his death and also his burial as well. And which is very interesting. The twilight of Avraham's life starts basically with the death of his wife. And only after she died and was buried, the pasuk says, "V'Avraham zaken ba bayamim," and Avraham is old, really old. He is really old. And the question is, of course, and the Midrash is absolutely correct to ask this question. The Midrash says, "V'chilo Avraham zaken kvar lefnei zeh." Wasn't Avraham old already before she died? And why now is it telling me that he is old? Why is the Torah telling me now that Avraham is really ancient, as they say? I mean, according to the dates in which we have, the chronology that comes up from the story of the patriarch, right? Even though it's not specifically said, Avraham was already he was like past 100 when Sarah died. But it's not just the dates that the Midrash is trying to tell us. There's something to tell us, something very, very deep, and something very deep psychologically. The Midrash on that statement said something very interesting. It says, "En ish met ela leishto, ve'en isha meta ela leva'ala." It means a person is considered dead, a husband is considered dead when his wife dies, and the wife considered to be dead when the husband dies. Of course, psychologically, today people might not agree with that. But as soon as she died, all of a sudden, we call it kavtza alav zikna. Old age kind of jumped upon him. All of a sudden, he was fine. But all of a sudden, this crisis of losing his wife was so tragic for him, so great for him, that within her death, immediately, he just all of a sudden became old. He just didn't have koach, didn't have the power anymore to go. And we need to see, why is that? What exactly happened? And maybe we can also, if we take a good look at that, maybe we could learn something from that story to our lives as well. And what does the death of Sarah have to do with the old age of Avraham Avinu? And I guess in order to do that, let's try to see the process of life. What exactly happened throughout life? So let's talk about what we call Biniyat Ha'adam HaShalem, building or putting the structure of the complete human being or complete person. what exactly that means. So the stages of building really start when a person is born. When a person is born, if you look at him, the stages of development, I'm not getting into Erickson now, and to Mahler and all the other chevre, this is you can take in psychology where you have nothing else to do. When a person is born, is all about completely self-centered, and really that mechanism of self-centerism is really needed for the child's survival, because he needs to live, so he cries. So everything is about himself, about him, eating and basically maintaining his life. So, but in order to do so, he needs to be completely self-centered. But then he's a baby, he becomes a little older, he has an ability to speak, he becomes a toddler, and little babies want little things, right? He wants a little car, and he wants a little toy, he wants little things. And as much as he grows up, and time goes on and the child grows, his ego grows, become bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden he develops what we call haratzon lekabel, the will or the need to receive all the time. And that is, of course, our vessels, our tools that we have to, receptacles that we have to receive pleasure in this world. And by the way, as a side note, sometimes we actually destroy the kid by continue teaching them to just keep on giving and giving, or for them side is receiving and receiving and receiving, and we also tempt the kid, we trick the kid. Like for example, we buy them things, we create a certain anticipation of the child to receive things without doing anything, just because of, for example, a birthday, right? What happens on the birthday? The kid received. But Joy, did you take the Zalman flight? No? Yeah. So, the kid becomes a birthday, he has a birthday, and all of a sudden, guess what? He expects gifts. It's a very bad thing to accept gifts. When I was a kid, I'll tell you a little secret. When I was a kid, in my family, we didn't have birthdays. I don't know, we just didn't have birthdays. And sometimes as a child, I was kind of jealous of my friends, and I couldn't understand why in my family we don't have cakes. Of course, we don't have the candles like because blowing the candles, it's a custom that came from idol worshippings, right, from pagans. But, it's like, we don't have those cakes with the cream on and the gift wrapping and so on and so forth. And then I realized that actually my parents did a great favor to me, and without knowing, basically trained me not to receive free gifts. And then we tell the kids, guess what? You're going to get a good mark, we're going to give you a gift. And so on and so forth, not knowing what you're actually doing to your child by teaching him to receive freebies. I mean, so much until we expect this from any kind of authority figure to give us gifts and entitlement services. For example, government. It's a very bad thing, Rabotai, I'm going to tell you something. If you want to be free, it sounds like a Bob Dylan song. If you want to be free, try to make sure that you remove yourself from any kind of government entitlement programs. Medicare, Medicaid, whatever they give, free food stamps. Guys, go to work. Don't get food stamps. Pay your way around. It's a very important thing to pay your way as you go. Don't get freebies. That's freedom. It's a very bad thing. I mean, psychologically, in terms of your behavior and your attitude and your way of thinking. I mean, if you want to succeed in your life, first stage is not to get freebies. No, thank you, it's okay. I don't need it. Chazal was so smart. They say, Soneh matanot ichyeh. A person who hates gifts should live. I don't know, as a child, I never understood that. I had always problems with it. So, man, Chazal is so cruel. But having a life of expectations and a sense of entitlement is not worthy to call life. So yes, maybe you are breathing as an organism, But in terms of livelihood, that's not life. You want something? Go get it. My father, alav shalom, never worked with a credit card. Never had a credit card. And I said to him, but what's the big deal? Just get a credit card, go. He says, Habibi, the lesson is like this. I have the money, I buy it. I don't have the money, I don't buy it. I said, but what happens if you want something? I said, well, sometimes I need to come to grips with the terms that I don't have the money and I can't buy it. I don't feel entitled for something to put me in debt. It's not worth it for me. That's another thing that you should try to avoid is credit cards. I mean, without talking about fake news and all this stuff like that, I mean, why do you think that there is such a tendency of government and so on, of big parties or big bodies like banks and so on, for you not to work with cash? Because once you work with cash, you're king. You don't have to give a report to anyone, and you can, you have control over the situation. Because if you don't have the money, you don't buy it, so you have control of the situation. All these things, credit cards, bitcoins, all these things teach you one thing: not to have control. It's a tool not to have control, driven on what we call haratzon lekabel, the will to receive. All I want to do, very selfish, I want to receive. That's good when you're a child, but when you're a grown donkey, you don't need that lack of control. You need to have control. You need to be able to understand things a little different. You don't need that for your survival. And that's a very important lesson for you to learn. Tell Uncle Sam, with all the respect, we gotta careful from uncles who will sit in basements and do all kind of crazy things, if you know what I mean, right? So then all of a sudden, it becomes until the age of 13. And 13, we says, listen, something is happening here, and if the kid was lucky, he gets Torah, he gets mitzvot, and so on and so forth. And together with Torah and mitzvot are basically the tools, the instrument in which he can break his ego and basically fix his world. And now pay attention to this concept that I'm telling you, fixing the world. We'll talk a little bit about it later. And on the other hand, when he gets older, he already has like big concepts. It starts to engage with big ideas and concepts like that. At the beginning, he wants little things, and now he also wants bigger things. He wanted a little car, now he wants a big car. Now he has to have, big needs and so on and so forth. He might even be so special that he really wants olam haba, the world to come. He wants heaven. And that's something important, because that he wants spiritual achievements. He doesn't just want physical achievement. He wants spiritual achievements, which are really the great things. There is not much difference between having a matchbox car and to have a real car, besides the fact that one costs more than the other. Both of them serving your ego, serving yourself for acknowledgement of the other people around. That's basically what it is. I mean, if you think about it, I love Corvettes, I love Mustangs. Until recently I had a Mustang GT that my son took away from me, right? But if you think about it, I mean, you know how old my car was? It's 20 years old. I didn't care. I mean, it's a car, it's just a car. But if you let the car define who you are, then you got a problem. You got a problem. It's like a cinder block, or cement block that just sinks you down and you sink like a stone. Because you know why? Because the times they are changing. Time is ticking, and it's time to reach other things. So now, the order of building the Adam Shalem, what we call it, is in stages. And a person needs to go through the stages. You can in one day become perfect. You can become whole in one day. In any case, whether it's your spirit or it's physical, you have to understand that you need to engage and commit yourself to the process. You need to commit to the process. And once you commit yourself to the process, you might reach what we call Nekuda Emtzai, the central point. And the central point, of course, is what the Rambam writes, that a person needs to go b'shvil hazahav, in the golden path. And in other words, not to be, for example, too a big spender and not to be too stingy. You need to be somewhere in the middle. That's shvil hazahav. And if you, for example, reach a certain level of radicalism on one side, for example, you became very, very cheap, right? So in order to become to the center, you need to be very, very big spender. So it takes a lot to correct, to make that correction. And that's, by the way, something that is very scary to me. Because if our country, for example, as an example, of course, we're not preaching politics here, but if our country is becoming, for example, radically left, an extreme left, I am concerned with what will happen in order for us to become the point of correction, which is going to be extremely right, and who knows what expecting to us on the right. Then there's going to be a process of correction. I mean, that happens almost to every country in the world, including Germany and Europe and so on and so forth. From extreme left, they became extreme right, or actually extreme right, they became extreme left, because the National Socialist Party of Germany were a left-wing party, right? With a lot of the things that left-wing parties do, which is basically control of the people, extreme control of the people, and then, of course, they had to go to a complete point of destruction in order to reach somewhat of a middle point that happened somewhere in, let's say, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and after that they went again on a left path, and it's always going to be like this. So I'm very concerned with the process in which we are going, and you have to be able to identify the process and to understand what's going to be. And it says that, for example, a person needs to mimic or understands the qualities of Ribono Shel Olam, of God, to be like Him, right? As much as Hashem is only mashpia and does not receive, God does not receive anything. Receiving, and you need to understand, receiving indicates lacking. And the more you need to receive, the emptier you are. God does not need anything. That's why God only gives. So you think also now, at your stage, each and every one of you, where exactly are you holding? If you always want to give me, give me, give me, you might want to just stop for 1 second and see what is wrong with you that you're always receiving. It's like a person that's always hungry. He's always hungry. There's something wrong with him, right? So you need to fix it. The same thing here. A person needs to do whatever he can in his power to be mashpia. But if he's mashpia and doesn't receive, so in a way, why did he come to this world? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this world in order to what we call lehetiv lebruav, to make the world, to do good with the people. And if a person is going to reject everything, so therefore the whole process, the whole purpose of creation is not going to exist. So in our neshama, in our soul, in our spirit, there are different levels. There are different levels, which are the nefesh and the ruach, and usually they're established in the world, and whatever needs you to get going in terms of your, call it the Sigmund Freud concept of Kabbalistic approach, right? So you have the nefesh, which all your needs and so on and so forth, to eat, and when you have ruach, when there is going to be ruach in the world, more spirit in the world, which is the driving force in every organism, because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu blew into our head, into our beings when He created us. That's the ruach, right? Because we said ruach Elokim merachefet al pnei hamayim. So then all of a sudden things is going to be different. The world is going to be more calm, because it's going to be Shefa Elyon, superior abundance coming down to the world. And that's why it says on Mashiach, when Mashiach comes, it says, and I'm quoting from Sefer Yeshaya, for those of you who don't know, is Isaiah 11. It says the following, V'nacha alav ruach Hashem, and the Spirit of God will bestow upon him. And then it says, what's going to be this ruach? This spirit is going to be ruach chokhmah ubina, wisdom and intellect, ruach etzah v'gvura, a spirit of good advice and heroism. Ruach da'at, knowledge, understanding, yirat Hashem, and they're going to be the awe of God. Those things ultimately supposed all to bring you to have yirat shamayim, to have the awe of God. So Mashiach is going to bring us a new spirit, which is going to be higher than what the world knows, and that's why because things are going to be so spiritually clear, and there's going to be such wisdom in melee. In any case, all those arguments that we have on all aspects of life are not going to be, because arguments means that we don't understand one another. So if we don't understand one another, there's not going to be arguments. Now, one of the solutions that is brought, for example, in the writings of the Rav Ashlag, he says the following: that a person needs to be mekabel al menat le'ashpia. So to solve this problem, because you can't be like God, only receive, only giving, and you can only receive. So to solve this, so Rav Ashlag is offering something very interesting. You need to receive in order to give. And where do we see that? We see that on the concept that we say lilmod ulelamed. You need to learn. When you learn, you are receiving from something. But this is only for do what? To teach other people. So lilmod al menat lelamed. Let me just turn this off because I'm dying of heat here. So lilmod al menat lelamed, to learn in order to teach. So you need to kind of give back, and you need to give back to society. You need to give back to society. For crying out, you need even to give back to whoever did anything good to you. You need to give back to them. So, Abraham and Sarah were very special people. But how do we start this whole process, to give and so on and so on? So Abraham and Sarah were very, very unique people. They were very unique by the mere fact that they simply went against the whole entire world. They would not, Abraham and Sarah, Rabotai, to all the liberal Jews out there, Abraham and Sarah were not politically correct. They were not. So next time you become politically correct, you remember that. Don't make yourself cross-eyed. So Abraham and Sarah were not politically correct. And they were against the whole entire world, and against complete opposite from the mindset of that generation. So much that they basically had to escape the place called Ur Kasdim. That was so bad for them, they basically chased them out of there. It's like, let's say for example, you have this whistleblower that says something, and then you come to threaten him that if you don't retrieve your words, I'm going to kill you. Right? So they have to escape from there to Haran, right? Not to Bahrain, to Haran. And because of their what? Because of their ideas and because of their dreams. They had a dream. And Avraham and Sarah, yes, Rabotai, before Martin Luther King, there were other people that had dreams. And Avraham and Sarah had a dream. And they dreamed that one day, maybe, every man will have the honor to receive human dignity. Their own human dignity. Why? Because every human was created what we call B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God. So just because of that, which is at the time, and I'll tell you the truth, even today, somewhat of a great idea, quite of a revolutionary idea. And so not only Abraham and Sarah had a dream, not only they were not politically correct, but being good Jews that they were the first revolutionists. The first revolution that happened over there between men and men was by Abraham and Sarah. By Abraham and Sarah. Maybe today you start to see some things are moving about this, and you see the process took us thousands of years to achieve that, to reach that. And however, you learn from here something tremendous. In order to see this dream to be fulfilled and to see that mankind, you need to have a dream. Only a person that has a dream can go forward. If you don't have a vision, and I'm not talking about vision that you get from smoking weed or something like that. Right? I'm talking about a real vision, a dream. Only then you could develop. And the reason is because that serves to you as a reference point in the future, which you align yourself, and then you move forward and you progress and you develop and you do whatever needs to be done to develop. So staying in a situation, feeling very comfortable in the situation that you are without moving forward, or it's basically spiritual death. If you're meeting people with the situation, says, don't, just stay where you are. You don't need to do this. Don't take chances. Don't take risks. These are people who will anchor you down. They will drown you in boredom. You're not going to go and develop anywhere. It doesn't mean that if you're going to reach where you're going to reach, you're going to be what we call in our world successful. In other words, make a lot of money and doing and so on and so forth. But you're going to become a successful human being because you had a vision and you move forward. Moving forward is a sign of success. Not the amount of dollars you have in your bank account. Is your movement. Real success, real human success is determined by your forward motion in your life. If you move forward in your life, you're successful. Sam, write it down. Put it on your book, Sammy. Right? That means moving forward. Again, success is being determined by your motion forward, not with the money in your bank. Not with degrees or internship. How forward you move in. So, if we're going to look, for example, at the history books, are really full with stories about people that dare to dream on something that time seems completely impossible. For example, women voting, whether you like her or don't like her, whether she was elected or not elected, just the fact you have an American woman vice president, regardless of the reason she was elected to become vice president, it's a new thing. You know what? For that, it's a good idea. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal, but I'm talking about the concept. Let's look at things a little different. Just the fact that we have in America, look how long it took the United States to have a woman vice president. It's like almost 300 years. Almost. Well, whatever, 250 years. Okay? That's a long time. Who would dare? If you tell Susan B. Anthony, the woman on the, so if you tell her that one day there's going to be a woman, vice president, she'll say, hallelujah, I don't care what she is, if she has two heads. I don't care if her husband is Jewish. It's okay as long as she has a president. And most of us, by the way, are afraid to dream. And many times we do whatever we can, and we allow people to do whatever we can to stop us dreaming, not to have a dream. And the main reason why we don't have a dream is because we're afraid of failure. For crying out loud. Let's say, for example, you live here in New York, right? And the average house is for you is like, $1.2 million. Why in the world would you buy a house here? What would you continue this? Go to Boca, go to Arizona, go to Texas, go somewhere, move. You afraid of failure? Staying here is a success. You're going to be a slave. Moving forward, that's something else. But we're afraid to fail. However, the fear that we have should be a different fear. We should be afraid, not of fear of self, we should be afraid of something else. We should be afraid of living life without a dream. That should be your fear. That's what you should be your concern. Not about what we call failure. Okay, so I succeeded. So I failed. Okay, I tried very hard in my life to do something, and guess what? It turned out to be that I am a nothing. Good. That's an achievement. You gotta tell me, excuse me, what, are you out of your mind? I said, no, you're out of your mind. Why? Because if, for example, I realize that I'm a failure, so okay, fine, stop doing something about it. Build yourself up and up. Slowly, slowly. But what will happen if one day you're going to wake up when you're 70 years old, then you're going to realize you're a failure? Then what? Are you going to be able to change it? You're going to mourn yourself to death at 80. That's the problem that people have when they retire. They work and they create this whole illusion that they are Superman and they're powerful people and so on and so forth. All of a sudden they retire and they're just another Joe Schmo around the block. And that's terrible. And guess what? They die. If they want to get rid of the old people, they didn't have to have COVID for that. They just have to make everybody go in retirement. How about that? Yeah? So, Life without a vision, life without a dream, is life without meaning. Without meaning, without a drive. And even if this dream is not going to be fulfilled the way we imagined it originally, but it's fine. The failure of the dream is a beginning to start another dream. So let's say you had a dream to become a goat rancher in, I don't know where, to make goat cheese. And then you tried and you failed. Good. All right. Move on to the next thing. Move on to the next thing. Start dreaming up again. And that is something that you all need. And unfortunately, they don't teach you that in school. They don't teach you that in school. And I wonder if it has to do with why the people who went to education went there to begin with. Is it because they really had nothing, because it pays well, they have nothing better to do? Go do something else. Everybody wants the secure job. Everybody wants the job that's going to give him pension. But who are you? Who said you're going to get there? And maybe tomorrow they're going to close the schools. They're going to fire you after being tenured. You think if you're going to get tenure, that's it, you will settle down in school? Guess what? They cut positions. You're out. There's no security in life. And that's a wonderful thing because it makes you dare to do things. And that's good. The Zohar teaches us, for example, and by the way, I just want to tell you something. And you know why it's good? And how do I learn that it's time to learn another? Because it says, what does it say about the tzaddik? It says from Mishlei. Mishlei 24, what does it say? Sheva yipol tzaddik vekam. A tzaddik can fall 7 times, still gonna get up. 7 times he's going to fall. That's okay. Get up again. Get on your horse and ride. Very simple. As they say in the West, cowboy up. That's why not so many people want to be cowboys anymore. It's too much freedom, if you know what I mean. So the Zohar teaches us that when Adam and Chava ate from the tree of knowledge, Etz Hadat, all of a sudden they felt for the first time the concept of death. And the concept of death is falling into darkness, falling into the sensation of a failure. And death is really what we call nefilat madriga, going down to a lower stage, a lower step. Every time we get hurt, we fall, and then we give up, and then we die a little bit more. Every time you get depressed, a small portion of you dies out. When you are born, you are 100% life. And again, we should change the way we send kids to school. We should change the schools. I mean, from the times of Little House on the Prairie, if anybody ever watched it, when they had one room for every kid in the village, whether you were 4 years old or 14 years old, things didn't change that much. We should make really a revolution of the education. We all know the education is failing in this country. But why don't we fix it? Because it's many times schools serve as deathbed, as graveyards for human inspiration to grow up and develop. You have teachers that don't have a dream, that make sure to make you instead of going to therapy, they're going to make you miserable. To kill your dream, so you would not dare to ask questions, to ask good questions. And that's terrible. Why do you think every time we start learning here, I said to you guys, anybody has questions? Because I want to hear your questions. I know I sound terrific. I don't need you to tell me that. I want to hear what you have to say, what you want to know. I want to hear your dreams. And every time, again, you go down, you fall into darkness. And darkness is death. So a little piece, as Janis Joplin said, Allah Yarahma, take a little piece of my heart now, baby. Every time you die, another piece of the cake that you call your life is taken out. When you fall into this darkness, there's no hope, there's no solution. And then you know what happens? Those who make sure that you fall into this darkness going to come to you as like the saviors. They're going to be your Messiah. They're going to save you out. And then you become more dependent on them. That's the way it works, Rabotai. But we are the children of Abraham and Sarah. We don't work like that. We need to have a dream. And that's why maybe in a way HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, guys, you're becoming too fat. I'm going to take away your country. I'm going to take away your temple. I'm going to take away everything that you felt comfortable in. And guess what? I'm going to create a momentum in you that you're going to have a vision. V'techezena mishum chezyon. I'm going to have a vision to come back to Etzion, to build this place, to be metaken everything that it's. So for 2,000 years, that vision of going back to Israel, going back to Yerushalayim, building back the land, bringing back Torah, served basically for us as a life savior. It saved our lives. When you're too fat, it says, "Vayashmen Yeshurun vayivat." You get a little too fat, you kick the bucket. And it's good to have a bucket list. Don't have a bucket. By the way, don't have a bucket list. Have a list. Not the wait until you die. Make sure you do those things you want to do every single day. How many of you want to jump off the plane? Of course, with a parachute. And always say, "Oh man, I can't." And jump. You want to do it? Jump. You want to ride a motorcycle? Fine. Sit on my sidecar. I'll drive it for you. And so on and so forth. You want to do something. Don't all of a sudden become super responsible to everything else. You want to do a trip overlanding. You want to go on the Great Western Trail to go from Arizona all the way up to Canada. But you say, I have to be responsible. I have to finish my internship. I have to finish my school. Take a break. It'll wait for you. You got all your life to work like a dog. But you don't have all your life to do what you want to do. So go. Be responsible for yourself. You tell me you want to be responsible. How are you going to be responsible if you can't take care of your own self or your own neshama? You're killing yourself slowly. Killing me softly with his words. And today I'm Moroccan. It's like, anyway. From Janis Joplin to Carly Simon, you know. So, anyway. Now, if you know the word choshech is the root of that is shin chaf chet. So that darkness, and pay attention to this, that darkness of choshech seeps into your cells, seeps into your DNA, seeps into, you know, everything in you. And then you slowly die. And that is the same letters of choshech is shachach, to forget. And what do you mean? What's the connection between that and death? It's very simple. You know, our cells always reproduce. We always rejuvenate ourselves. And what happens all of a sudden that we die? We forget how to reproduce. It changes our DNA. In a way, fear or lack of dream or darkness is spiritual cancer. It manipulates your DNA to the point that you simply forget how to reproduce yourself, to recreate life, to rejuvenate all the time. So when it says, in our parasha that Avraham Avinu was basically dying, it says Zaken v'saveh. In other words, he lived full life, and when the secret for this kind of life was really dependent on you giving from yourself to society, from you giving to the others, right? Giving them hope, giving them dream, giving them the tools to really live life. And really, these are the things that could save you from failure and from disappointment, right? So, but that's why when you have this dream, you feel like you want to create something forever. So when Sarah Imenu died, together with her, a big part of Avraham Avinu went. That's what the Midrash says. En Adam met ela liishto, and Isha meta ela leba'ala. So with Sarah, she was his partner. She was his partner for this big dream. A part of this dream went with her down to the other world. And a person without a dream is an old man. Old men usually don't have any more ambitions to go and to create and to move and dreams. They just want to maybe sit there in a corner and die. Maybe in dignity, of course. No diapers and so on and so forth. But they don't have dreams, no ambitions. So Avraham, you might say, took Torah. Maybe he took other mistresses with him. I mean, to him. He had other women after Sarah. However, the portion of Sarah being his partner in this dream was gone forever. Was gone with her. Nobody can substitute Sarai Menu with a dream in terms of the spiritual aspect. Physical aid, you can do it. Spiritual, there's only her. She was his other half. He was not complete anymore. He was not shalem. He was not complete. She took a dream. He became old. He had lost any reason to live from this point on. Now, if we're going to look at the word choshech, darkness, chet shin chav, right? The gematria of that, the numerical value of that is 328. Remember, a person that falls into darkness and then he shocheach, he forgets the same letters, right? Just different order. It's the same 328. You forget that there is light. Therefore, he becomes like a kli cheres. The gematria of kli cheres is also 328. And when it's broken, you can't fix it anymore. When darkness comes into you, you can't fix it. So therefore, cheres shenishba, what we say, en lo takana. You can't fix it. That's what we don't tovel it. Basically, it becomes or lelo kli. It's just a light without a vessel, because we know in order to get everything. So light without a vessel, or lelo kli, is also 328. The gematria of choshech, of darkness, tells us zu avodah zarah, falling into the path of despair, of darkness, of no hope. If you write zu, that, avodah zarah, idol worshipping, it's the same gematria, 328 choshech. So when you're depressed, that's what we say, Ivdu et Hashem besimcha. Worship God with joy, not with depression. So if you feel that you are locked and you like this, break the lock, cut the rope, break free, do something. If you feel that your life is in the jam, do what we call the dynamite solution. You know what's a dynamite solution? When they were doing loggings, the logging industry, they used to put a lot of logs through the river. That's the cheapest and fastest way. But sometimes when the river curves, there is a log jam. And you can't really undo it. And sometimes you're talking about, millions of logs being jammed in the river. You pull one, 3 others come in. You pull 300 come in. You can stop. So what do? Take a dynamite, boom, explode it. Then everything flows back again. Sometimes you need to do the dynamite options in your life as well. When you look in every direction, it looks clogged. Break free. I don't know, get a Harley, go somewhere. Go somewhere. Go become soldier of fortune. I don't know, go somewhere. Go to the army. Go somewhere. Do something different. Create a dream. Create an opportunity for yourself. You must create opportunity for yourself. I know this is not your typical Parashat. It tells you Rashi says this or Rashi said that. But that's my way of looking at it. I'm trying to see what it tells me. What do I learn from that? What could I share with you so you would not make the mistakes that most people are making? We need to understand that. And if you're okay with it, you're okay with that. Yeah, have a l'chaim. If you're not okay with that, have a l'chaim. You know, it's going to be good. Don't worry about it. Now, and why it's avodah zarah? Because we forget already that there is Hashem, and there is mitzvot, that there is Torah. We forgot what to do. That's why Torah and mitzvot are your island of refuge. These are the tools. You have skills. You have tools. You can fight. That's how you fight. And then we fall into the klipot. We fall into the darkness. Only with emunah. Only with emunah, and only with emunah and Torah, we could be saved, we could help ourselves. And then comes the great light. And keneged And as we says it, we says Ba Or Ilahi. Ba Or Ilahi, Gematria is 328. Zeh keneged zeh. So you need to understand, through the darkness, you have the tools to turn the darkness into tremendous light. Hashem's, and then what Hashem tells us, in the greatest darkness of Am Yisrael, in the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, after Tisha B'Av, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, what do we read in the Haftarah? Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami is what, Rabotai? Also 328. It's the same Gematria of 328. There are many, many issues and stories and secrets in this parasha. For example, as I tried to tell you, the connection between Hebron and Yerushalayim. What's the correlation between Hebron and Yerushalayim? Is there one? Or for example, how to settle down Eretz Israel according to Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu has a very interesting method of how to settle down Eretz Israel. By the way, that method of settling down in Eretz Israel was really put into place by the Keren Kayemet, by Baron Rothschild, and so on and so forth. That's how they did it. Very similar to that. But there's also another kind of understanding. And I really want you to pay attention to this one. I'm sure you paid attention to everything I said, but especially to this one. There are two ways of interactions in the world that you can act in this world. One is to be constantly in asiyah, constantly in doing, in actions, and doing, in order to strive to what we call fixing the reality, tikkun ha-metziut, fix the reality, fix the world the way it is. And that comes from the assumption that the appearance or the existence of God in the world is separated from the world itself, and yet there is a certain relationship, right, between them, and a relationship in which the world is details upon details upon details upon details of stuff, and the challenge of man is really to fix this reality. That is the way of the halakha, that's the way that the Talmud, layers upon layers of interaction between man and God through the understanding. That's why we have the halakha and so on and so forth. But there's another way. Of course, there's always another way. It's a much more difficult way. It's a way in which, with it, once a person reaches that, he understands that everything is one. Everything is one. And the purpose of man is not to change reality, but rather to reveal that everything is one. Remember, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Everything is one. And that is the world of the Kabbalah. That's the difference between the Kabbalah and Olam HaHalacha. Two different things. And in the world of Kabbalah, that's where the secret of one is being revealed. It's all about creating everything back into one. That's we call the Yehudim, make one, everything one again. And maybe what we call it Soda Ahava, the secret of love. Again, and we always come back to it. Love and one is the same numerical value. If you understand, if you find within you the understanding that everything is one, then you could love. Because we say, Mi ki amcha Yisrael, goy echad ba'aretz. Am Yisrael is one. If you don't understand that, you can never do ve'afta l'reacha kamocha. If you can't even love your fellow human being. It's everything. The world, everything is one. We are inside of God. But you need to understand that. And what does it mean? That according to Rav Kook, for example, we're talking about the mashal, the love between a man and a woman. So in order to have love between the new couples, right, each and every one of them should make room in themselves to develop that oneness together. I give up on myself, she gives up on herself, for what? To create, not that I'm giving up and I'm lacking something. I'm making almost like the concept of tzimtzum. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made room for us, for the world to be created. So a man makes room in himself, and the woman makes room in herself to create this oneness. Yes, on the outside, it seems like two individuals. There's a man, there's a woman. But really together, it's one entity. It's one entity, and that's how you have to operate. When they talk about Shlom Bayit and this and that, nobody talks about that concept. But that's how it is. If you understand there is no problem of friction anymore between one another because it's all one. It doesn't make a difference who does it. We are doing this together. We are one. As much as I have a right hand and I have a left hand, but they're all a part of the body. And what's connected? That hollow space between us, the torso. So is a man and a woman. They're creating this oneness. It's a famous story. They're talking about the Rav Aryeh Levin alav shalom. They went to his doctor. He went with his wife to a doctor. And it's a famous story. It's a famous story. He said to the doctor, he says, doctor, my wife's legs hurt us. My wife's legs hurt us. He felt her pain. He was one with her. He felt her pain. It wasn't she's feeling pain. I'm okay, I don't care, you're in pain. He felt her pain. Those people lived in such a level. He felt her pain. There was his body also. He felt her pain. You could see that in a way love could be that beautiful, productive tension of taking two people and making them into one, or merge them into one, right? And we see that Adam HaRishon, that was the original concept. Adam HaRishon says, "Hine zo hapam, this is it. Etzem mi'atzamai u'basar mibsari." This is a bone of my bones, it's a flesh of my flesh. He said it to his wife. When you understand that, there's no problem with cheating, of looking at other people. It's like, it's pointless. That's living life. That's what we call true love. That's called ahavat emet. So whoever understands this secret is really able to find his ahavat emet. And that's why our parasha told us, of course, about the famous miracle that happened when Eliezer, the slave of Abraham, meets Rivka on the well in Haran. And she gives him water, and she gives his camels water, and he receives the answer for his tefillah, and that is a siman because of the willingness of her to give to others. Her willingness to give to others. That's the sign that she's appropriate for Yitzchak, and that is going to be a successful zivug, and that's why the Torah says vaya'aveh, and he loved her. In other words, he saw the oneness in her, and they became one. That's why they were the way they were. Rabotai, I think, at least for me, it's a very challenging parasha in terms of internal work that we need to work on ourselves. I deliberately, again, don't want to deal with like the stories. He said, this said, that Medrash said, this and so on and so forth, this Perush or that Teruch and so on. It's not a historical review. The Torah is a book of life. And we can learn from that every single passage there. We can learn a different week about our lives. And there are many psukim in the Torah. That's why there are endless opportunities. So I would challenge you to try to maybe even listen to it again and try to apply even one thing from what we learned today to your lives in order to make your life more worthy to be called life. But the most important thing is, I dare you to dream. I want you to dream. I want you not to daydream, not to fantasize, to dream, to have a vision, to allow yourself this freedom to dare, to go, to try. There is hope. Don't give up hope. We never give up hope. When somebody tells you that there's no hope or to give up hope, you know that he is himself spiritually impaired. There is hope. And don't be afraid of anything. Just be afraid of one thing, of living life without a vision, without a dream. That's not called life. That is death. So until this, Rabotai, ואתם הדבקים בהשם אלוקיכם חיים כולכם היום. I wish you all Shabbat Shalom.